I thank the gentleman for yielding. Madam Speaker, because Wall Street money grabbers have made bad judgment calls, the American taxpayer is being forced to bail them out at $700 billion. Why is it, Madam Speaker, that the bigger the business, the more the federal government thinks it should swoop in and save incompetent businesses? Small businesses, mom and pop grocery stores don't get this break. When they make bad financial decisions, they go out of business. But the rich and famous Wall Street, New York City fat cats expect Joe's six-pack to buck it up and pay for all this nonsense. Reward people for being irresponsible and expect responsible people to pay for the sins of the financial industry. I think not. Putting a financial gun to the head of each American is not the answer. Madam Speaker, I have this bill. It's over 100 pages long. That means it's $1 billion a page. The New York City fat cats expect us to pay for. I think not. This year alone, Madam Speaker, it's a sad time to be an American taxpayer. Here's Uncle Sam all beat up because he's broke. And the reason is we have paid out Bear Stearns a bailout, $28 billion, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mae, $200 billion, AIG bailout, $85 billion. Last week, the automobile industry got $26 billion, and today, lo and behold, $700 billion. The American taxpayer is tired of paying for the sins of other people. It's time for them to pay and be responsible for their own misconduct. And I yield back the rest of my time.
The gentleman yields back his time. The gentleman from Massachusetts.
Madam Speaker, while I believe the gentleman is a little bit too harsh on the Bush administration, I understand his point of view. And I now will yield to the gentleman from Michigan. In my judgment, one of the major areas of damage we will see if this bill fails is that we're going to start to see a real contraction in credit for automobiles. So the automobile makers and the people who sell automobiles will all be hurt.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. Madam Speaker, I rise today in reluctant opposition to this massive bailout of Wall Street. I understand why many of my colleagues are inclined to support it. The urge to act now and do something, anything, to restore investor confidence is very compelling. Our economy faces great risks, and I agree wholeheartedly that the government must intervene in some way to restore stability. But the plan that we are considering today is not what my constituents want, is not what's best for the average American taxpayer, and it's not what's best for this economy. As a member of the working group assigned by the GOP leader Boehner to explore alternatives to a massive taxpayer-funded bailout, I was very pleased this weekend when we were able to develop a very realistic, workable alternative option to shore up these mortgage-backed securities. We took a long, hard look at the market and saw that a government-backed insurance plan could go a long way toward returning market value to many of these assets. It would address the market's aversion to these investments, and it would be entirely funded by risk-based premiums leveled on the holders of the assets, not taxpayers. Our premise for this plan was and remains that Wall Street should pay for Wall Street's mistakes. In addition, we outlined a tax proposal that would have injected billions into the private market, restoring liquidity and credit available on Main Street America. By temporarily removing the disincentive to repatriate or bring back to America profits made by American companies overseas, we could open the floodgates of capital into our marketplace. These are ideas that can work, but instead leaders have only agreed to attach a watered-down version of the insurance proposal to the same $700 billion bailout that the administration originally proposed. It creates an insurance purchase option for financial firms, but then offers them the alternative of free taxpayer money. I wonder which one they will take. I'm very pleased that this plan has been improved over the past few days, especially the provisions limiting golden parachutes and allowing the public to share in the profits that may be made. But I'm not convinced that we have taken the time to really come up with a strategy that truly protects the taxpayers. Let's take another look. Maybe we should start over. We've discussed looking at the S&L crisis. The administration discounted that. Let's go back and look at the FDIC and doing away with mark-to-marketing. Instead of banks using fair value accounting, the SEC should use true value, giving immediate positive impact on the financial industry. Madam Speaker, we can and should do better. Main Street Americans deserve no less. I yield back.
Madam Speaker, I rise in opposition to this bill. I'm resolute in my opposition, not because it was easy to vote against your president, but our president and his administration are wrong. And if we vote here today for this bill, it is truly the end of the Reagan era. It's the end of the Reagan era because, in fact, under Ronald Reagan's time, we dealt with similar problems, a huge financial problem, and we worked our way out of it without unnecessarily buying assets. We closed institutions, but we also saved institutions. Madam Speaker, my governor often says, "I'll be back." Madam Speaker, I have no doubt I'll be back. And I have no doubt that we will be trying to fix the problems next year that we don't fix here today. The mark-to-market problem, which Secretary Paulson has refused to deal with, in fact, in his own bill, is very clearly being denounced. He is raising the price of the assets we buy above mark-to-market while refusing to have the other assets allowed to be float to their true value. By definition, today we are picking winners and losers in assets, and rather than going to creditworthy companies and helping them get the capital they need so they can make loans to men and women and companies and entrepreneurs out there who desperately need it to grow our economy. Madam Speaker, we are deleveraging the very capital and the very enterprises we need today. GE Capital has said they're openly deleveraging. Why? Because that's a signal we're sending. We're collapsing this country into, in fact, a recession at a time in which the Ronald Reagan policy would be to expand opportunity, to find ways to give people who have great ideas an opportunity to reinvent America. So today we are ending the Reagan era if we vote for this. And if we can't come back and fix it next year, we will have permanently put a coffin on top of the coffin of Ronald Reagan. I yield back.